Hello Smart Movers and welcome to Smart Move Insider, a place where we talk about fitness from within. I'm Sergio alongside my co-host Bart, and today we're going to talk about a fancy phrase that's common and often said: mechanics, consistency, intensity. But what is this? This is going to be the talk of today, and we're going to take each three of them one by one. But first, hey Bart, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Just trained. I'm a bit drained.
Yeah. What was the workout today?
Today was some pull-ups, some toes to bar, but I did them strict.
So today was a gymnastic focused in the programming.
Yeah, gymnastic focused, and I didn't let myself go too fast. I didn't do the toes to bar. I did them strict. That's it.
Did that on purpose, just because you don't know what the open will be, and you wanted to save your palms?
No, I have a pain in my shoulder that when I get in that loose position of the pull-up or toe to bar, it just hurts me.
Okay.
So I'm trying to take care of my joints. What would you say mechanics are for people to understand? When we refer to mechanics, good mechanics.
Mechanics, when we talk mechanics, consistency, intensity, mechanics, it's a fancy word for moving, how you move through a move. So our goal is to move well through a move. So what we talk about today is the order in which to do things. So easily said, we need to move well before we put weights and before we add speed. So mechanics, it's all about moving well, getting in good positions, and just understanding the move. And it's also a safety thing, safety and efficiency thing. That's why we're trying to focus on good movement first.
Yeah, for me, when I studied for the level 3, I started thinking about more on this subject, and I was really thinking, what are the mechanics? What should I know when I say mechanics? And for me, what I think of when I say this is knowing the points of performance. Knowing when the start and the end of the movement, knowing what you should achieve during an up and down movement, let's say. Mm-hmm. That is for me mechanics, because in Romanian it's very hard to describe it. Yeah. Mechanics is mechanics, not more than that. It's very plain and simple.
No, but for sure, points of performance make sense. Like anybody, any client in our gym, if we tell them to back squat, they should know. Maybe in their head, because this is like coach talk, they won't think points of performance. But what we mean with that is you need to know where to put your feet. You need to know what body part's gonna move first. What are you gonna do with your knees? They're gonna track over the toes. Your chest is gonna stay up. What am I gonna do with my hands? How I'm gonna brace? So yeah, for each move there are indeed key points that you need to know in order to do the move well.
I remember we were saying this a lot in fundamentals to the new people. And back then I didn't know how to explain them this part, but how I would tell them now is that doesn't matter if you don't know the name on the board. For example, overhead squat, sumo deadlift, high pull. I can remind you the movement very fast, and then you still know the points of performance. Okay, my hips should be here, my hands should be close, I should bring the bar until my chest or chin. Mm-hmm. So you can forget a name, but you need to know if we show you the movement.
It's only normal and not to know all the terms in the beginning. We don't expect our newbies to know all the terms. In the end, it's not your native language. So, but it comes over time. It's more important indeed to know how the movement goes than to necessarily remember what's the difference between a hang clean and a hang power clean. It will come over time.
Exactly. So, knowing the points of performance and being able to execute them. This is the second part of it. So yeah. I know I should go under 90 on an air squat. Mm-hmm. But if I can't, why is that happening? Why can't I get into the position? What would you say to that?
Because you can't. Well, from a coaching point of view, it could be two things. Maybe it's a coordination issue and it's a technique thing. But in most cases, it's a mobility restriction. Why maybe you cannot reach all the positions how you should. Like I'm tight in the ankle, so maybe that's why I cannot get under 90, because if I do, I fall on my ass. So it's going to be important to work the mobility issues and not too early load up the bar in that case. Or perhaps I don't have a good front rack, and when I put the bar in the front rack on a front squat or a push press, the bar isn't touching my shoulders. With an empty bar, it won't be a problem from an injury point of view, but if you're going to load up, it might become. So what do I do until then? Because like I said, I don't want you to load up the bar until you can get in good positions. Is work with the light weights. We have often technical warm-ups where we practice the move, and under the guidance of the coach, doing a PVC overhead squat or a light barbell, it will not injure you. At that point, you're trying to work to a correct movement, as close to perfect as you can. The risk on injury is very low because there is no weight. But should you then put 40 kilos in the Metcon? Probably not, because you don't have good positions. So we're gonna search for an alternative. On a push press, maybe if the front rack is the problem, maybe we will take 2 dumbbells. You can still get the movement down, but without potentially hurting your shoulder, your elbow from a bad loaded front rack position. So it's just a bit of communication. Don't get into positions you're not ready for, especially with weight. Lightweight, no problem. That's why it's good for practice, but maybe under intensity. So in a Metcon, we need to revisit the situation a bit and see person to person what's going to be appropriate.
Yes, so for a squat, there are multiple things you should have in consideration when you try to do the movement. Remember in fundamentals, we used to do the ankle test, the first part. So we were having a lot of people just bending over, chest too low in a squat, and we were trying to get that off from the first by doing just the ankle test and see how they are. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes for the people that don't know, ankle test is you put your legs together and then you try to do a squat. Get your ass as low as possible. If you can touch, the hamstring can touch the calf. If you fall on your ass backwards, that means that you don't have enough mobility for your ankle to allow you to go forward with the knees. So I remember this.
Yeah, it's a short test, and then also for us as coaches and for you to see a little bit, do I have normal ankle range of motion, or should I work it a bit? Because it's important to figure out through your CrossFit journey where your work points are, so you know when to change certain exercises, when to hold back, and also where to work on before training, after training, in training, between sets, to do some ankle stretches, for example, between your sets of back squats. It's gonna be a journey, but you need to be willing to put time into it. But we can at least show you the problem areas and hold you back a bit when we think it's gonna be unsafe to load up with the restrictions you have.
Yes, this doesn't mean that you will do squats with your heels on some discs.
Not necessarily,
Not
no.
necessarily. You can work on them, yeah.
For sure.
So speaking about it, it makes me think that, okay, knowing the points of performance, being able to execute them from a mobility standpoint, but that also means being able to do it from a physical point. That means that if you are overweight or you are in your late years and you didn't do sports so much, chances are big that you cannot get into the position. Okay, just drop and give me a squat ass to grass. That's impossible. So we have steps to go in that direction. First, for example, if to stick to the squat, we should put them just to sit on a bench and then lift themselves from the bench.
Yeah, in this case, it's a matter of you need a minimum amount of muscle mass to be able to control your body into that position of the squat. If you don't have it because you're untrained, you cannot control yourself, and this is then a work point. It's not a mobility thing, it's not necessarily a technique thing, but you need to strengthen your body a little bit to be able to go. And like Sergio said, we can let you squat lower until your legs get stronger. We can give you single leg work. just to strengthen the body, and then we'll lead you to that full range motion squat. So it depends again, person to person, but definitely it also happens.
I have an image in my head. It was a woman, let's say mid-30s, and we were trying to do some isometric squat. So you just go in a full squat, hold there for a few seconds, and then come up. We were doing 6 reps, and in the middle at rep 3, she couldn't get up no more. She just went down, and she's stuck over there. And then for the whole training, she said that my thighs are about to explode.
So much lactic acid already built up in those couple of reps. Yeah.
So I would adapt this to mechanics also. You need to be able and to have the strength to do it, or else you're in a high state of decrepitude.
Yeah, so as a coach, it's a bit of figuring out a bit in what case everybody is that struggles with a certain move. And the next one.
So consistency. We should go into consistency. After you master the mechanics, know the mechanics, able to do the mechanics, we go into consistency. How would you describe it?
How I usually describe it to people is that after you know technically how to do the move, we want you to get to a point where still with the light weights, you can now do the move over multiple reps, multiple sets, repeatedly well, even under fatigue. So some kind of muscle memory kicked in. So you don't need to think so much about the technique anymore. Like now my hip goes back and down and the knees out. Things start to flow a bit more naturally. And even when you're tired, you can still give me a good looking move.
Yeah, that's a nice definition. In my plain words is practice the good movement often. Mm-hmm. That's it. Come into the gym daily. Try to have in the back of your mind the good movements, and just try to do them also when you are doing the Metcon. The cardio part is not an excuse to move bad. It's the most important part that you should hold it together and move properly, because when you're tired, when technique kicks in, you will be saved.
I often have this with days where we have body weight, where on my Metcon brief I tell my people like, it's easy moves today, right? So that means they're gonna look super good because they're the easy moves. It's just push-ups, it's just air squats. But a lot of times when it becomes to these between brackets easy moves, people start to rush it and they're bending their back, they don't go low enough, they're collapsing with the knees. So no matter the move, we always need to keep in consideration mechanics. Getting tired is not a reason to drop mechanics fully. There will be some breakdown, but it should still look good. There should be expected to be some breakdown, but there is a limit. What's the minimum allowed? What's the standard? The minimum standard that we're expecting. There is a minimum standard. Not anything goes just because you're tired. Yeah, the more you're gonna train and be exposed to not necessarily a move, because in CrossFit we have movement patterns, so any type of squat you're gonna be exposed to any kind of hip hinge or deadlift motion, kettlebell swing, you're gonna practice so much these same movement patterns that they're gonna pay off in other moves that maybe you didn't do every week. So it's just about move regular, you're gonna feel your body, you're gonna just get better and better at just practice like with anything. If you do something on a regular basis, it just gets better.
Yeah, and now I have a thing to say. Yes, but if you suck at overhead squat and if it hurts you, if it challenges you, you might be prone to just skip that day or cherry pick just the days you want to move and move better and have a good score.
Like yesterday, when we had overhead squats and the classes were more empty. It's a thing that you could do, cherry pick. I wouldn't recommend it, because only by exposing yourself to things that are challenging for you, you're gonna get better at them. If you're gonna avoid them, you cannot expect anything to change. So it depends on your attitude towards it. Do you wanna avoid or do you wanna attack your problem? I encourage people to attack the problem. It doesn't mean you need to die that training. We need to train smart. You don't need to die completely that training. But if you have the ambition, for example, to do a snatch, but you're avoiding overhead squats are the base. If you're never going to be fully comfortable in the bottom of an overhead squat, you cannot expect to have a good full snatch.
True.
So it depends a bit on your goals. But expose yourself to things that challenge you. You don't like running? Okay, the workout has 5 rounds. 2 rounds of them run. Do 3 rounds of air bike or rower on the other rounds, but expose yourself a little bit to the things that you don't like that much. The thing with the mechanics is also that when technique starts breaking down, we often see when we said tiredness is not a reason to do bad movement. You need to also be very aware of yourself, because I rather have people do 10 wall balls looking very, very good than try to push for 25 and you start bending your back, you start losing your balance, you start collapsing your knees. So we are here to coach you, but you also need to want to prioritize good movement. So with whatever you do, make it look good. That's always our main credo, even just for an air squat, even just for a wall ball, where there is low chance for injury, make it look good. It will pay off also on your weighted movements after. What would you say is that to be expected? Technique breakdown? Can you do everything 100% perfect?
No. This makes me think of threshold training when you say this. If you're in a metcon and you move too good, that means you need to go faster. So I'm going to encourage you, if I'm going to see perfect movement in the 3rd or 4th rep from a metcon of 5, to push a bit harder. You move good, you're safe, now go a bit harder. We want intensity.
And on this, our goal is to cue you. So when we see technique breakdown, and it's inevitable, technique will break down. It can be tiredness, it can be lack of focus. It's our job to cue you towards better movement. Once you're back to better movement, just like Sergio said, we're talking about threshold training. If it looks too perfect, then you can probably put a little bit more intensity into it. So that's also the third one of our 3, mechanics, consistency, and intensity. So that's where threshold training comes in. We want to find that balance between, if it's perfect, you're probably moving too slow or the weight is too light. If you're completely bending over, it's the other extreme. We want to find something in the middle. We want to find that point of, it looks good, not perfect, but good. Good, you will not be in a high risk of injury, but you will still move fast enough and go heavy enough. So people that move too perfect, it's also something that as a coach you're looking at and say, I think you can get more out of it, because in the end, when we're gonna come to intensity drives results. So if you do not push your body to challenging enough, the body won't adapt. So if you're moving completely perfect, I'm gonna say you're not pushing your body to challenging enough.
Yeah, that's right. So we are at the 3rd one and last one, the intensity. I would like to tell you the definition of intensity, which I learned in my level 3, is a really nice phrase. So intensity is the independent variable most commonly associated with maximizes the rate of return of favorable adaptation. In short, hard and fast.
Yeah.
I still remember this also from my level 2 when the coach was explaining. But even plain and simple, I would say that intensity comes only after you master the first 2. So after you have your mechanics, and then you have the consistency, you've done it often enough, then you can add the intensity / weights. So you can drive more results.
So to make it clear, intensity, when we talk intensity, there are multiple ways to get to intensity. It could be move faster, it could be use a heavier weight, or it could be pick a more challenging gymnastics movement that will drive the intensity. So basically, easy set is what will make the thing you're doing harder. So these are 3 examples of how it would make things harder, how would affect your intensity on your Metcon.
And regarding what you said earlier about intensity driving results, and there's a thin line between good movement and the breakdown of the movement. I have a memory, an example that the level 3, the seminar staff were telling us is that you never seen an F1 champion didn't crash their car. Yeah. They crash their car because they're driving it to the limit. Of course, you don't want to crash the car. But if you don't push the limit and trying to get faster times, better cornering, and everything that gets with this, you will never improve. You will never have the best results ever. You can go slow and get the perfect movement, but that will not win you anything, any competition.
It won't drive you any change on your body. If you just stay in your comfort zone, no matter if you want to get your strength up, you want to get your VO2 max up, the changes lie into the discomfort. So you need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So it doesn't mean you need to be dead, but it means you need to go where it starts hurting a bit. You don't need to be knocked out after, but it should get uncomfortable. If you didn't feel uncomfortable, then you did something wrong. And we believe intensity drives results. What's the definition? Because you said a lot of nice definitions today already. What's the definition of CrossFit?
CrossFit, constantly varied function of movements performed at high intensity.
Yeah, and the thing with that is, a lot of you that listen, the only thing you're gonna remember is high intensity. And we're coming back to the mechanics. So high intensity is relative. Like we said already, the entire episode, good movement, make sure you can repeat that good movement, only then you're thinking about intensity. What do you think? High intensity, does that mean maximum intensity? If we think about that definition.
No, if it's like the max heart rate, you don't want to be there all the time. You're going to have a spike. But high can be in the 85 to 95% of your max heart rate, let's say.
Yeah, that's also what I would say. I would even say 75% and up. I would say you're pretty high intensity. Maybe one day it's 75, maybe the other day you're working at 90% of your capacity. High intensity is relative. It depends from person to person. And it depends from day to day. It's influenced by how you feel, what the movements are of the day. Did I sleep 8 hours? So, but as long as you, on a regular basis, get 75+% intensity in, you will get results. You should try to put some, you should ignore the people next to you most of the time, because the goal is to drive your own results and not let your intensity be dependent on the people next to you. You should try to compare yourself and your results with how you were 3 months ago. I shouldn't compare myself with Sergio's score all the time. It's fun to compete once in a while, but most of the time, look at yourself. Drive your intensity according to yourself, not according to others, because you might go a bit in overdrive too often if you look too much to the others.
Yes, and if we're into this subject, and right before we close, I would add that you shouldn't aim for maximum or even highest intensity every day of your training. For example, if you come in 5 times a day, the recommendation of CrossFit is at
5 times a week.
Yeah, 5 times a week. At least one time, go full out.
Mm-hmm.
Go and go deep into that pain cave and see if you can if you can survive it, but not daily.
Yeah, and also don't be on the other side. If you stay in your comfort zone too much, you will have no noticeable results. In the end, effort is a choice. We understand that going to that, what we call pain cave, where it gets uncomfortable, it's a process. But if you analyze yourself and you didn't make noticeable gains in the last months, you might want to look a little bit on how much intensity do I put in my workouts? Do I put the minimum 75% in? Or am I a lot of times walking out of the training and I said, I think I can do another training now. How often have you heard that? I want to do a bit more.
Pretty often they say that, this was light today, or this was easy today, but I think in many cases they miss the point, and this will get us into the next subject.
Exactly, then we're going to be talking about stimulus, which is very correlated to intensity, because I also feel, out of experience, any CrossFit workout can be intense. It depends on you. If you walk out of a workout saying it was pretty easy today, I can easily make you redo it a day after or a week after with a couple of key points that you were missing, and you will feel that you had a training, even if it's just body weight.
Okay, so I think this is a good moment to wrap it up. Next time we're going to talk about stimulus. What we should look out for in a workout. What's the explanation behind it? Thank you for listening, and we'll hear you on the next one.